Welcome back to the Agoric Cafe for more coffee and philosophy. It's warmed up from yesterday. I'm getting as bad as Bill Davis. You don't know who that is. Well, some of you will. This is going to be pretty brief. This is just a supplement to episode 7 on Ayn Rand as a writer. That's why I've got the photo of virtual Gulch behind me again. The stuff that I should have said in episode 7 if I hadn't had a brain fart, or a couple of them. But since I've already edited and uploaded that, and since it takes hours with my system to upload long video files, I'm not eager to re-edit it and upload it again. So I'm giving you this supplement. This would really be titled episode 8, but I've already edited and uploaded episode 8 as well, which is an interview with Eric Mack. And I don't want to go through the hassle of renumbering that. So I'm calling this episode 9, but I'm going to post it before. I'm going to post it visibly before episode 8. So apologies for the confusion. So one quick correction I wanted to make is that the piece by Chopin that I played a brief clip from to illustrate the passage that Rand was talking about in We the Living, I said it was Chopin's Nocturne, Opus 10, number 2. I don't know why I said that. It was, of course, Opus 9, number 2. I was looking at the words Opus 9, number 2 when I said it, but I said 10. The words 10 came out of my mouth instead of 9. I don't know why, but probably demonic possession is the most likely explanation. It usually is. Anyway, so more substantively, when I was talking in that video about the influences on Rand's tendency to have her characters give long speeches to each other, and I mentioned a bunch of them, most notably Dostoevsky and Nietzsche. But I left out 2 really major and important ones, and so I want to mention them now. And since I'm going to the trouble of making a separate video, I don't want to just mention them, but actually give you some clips from them. 2 of her favorite playwrights were Henrik Ibsen and Edmond Rostand. And Rostand, incidentally, died in the flu pandemic of 1918, so that's a sort of a timely little connection to the present. Anyway, so Ibsen and Rostand, we get characters giving long speeches in some of their plays, and so to start off with, I'm going to give you a clip from Ibsen's Enemy of the People. This is from a LibriVox public domain recording, which I'll link to in the description.
The majority never has right on its side. Never, I say. That is one of these social lies against which an independent, intelligent man must wage war. Who is it that constitute the majority of the population in a country? Is it the clever folk or the stupid? I don't imagine you will dispute the fact that at present, the stupid people are in an absolutely overwhelming majority all the world over. But good Lord, you can never pretend that it is right that the stupid folk should govern the clever ones.
Uproar and cries.
Oh, yes, you can shout me down, I know. But you cannot answer me. The majority has might on its side, unfortunately, but right it has not. I am in the right. I and a few other scattered individuals. The minority is always in the right.
Renewed uproar.
Aha! So Dr. Stockman has become an aristocrat since the day before yesterday.
I have already said that I don't intend to waste a word on the puny, narrow-chested, short-winded crew whom we are leaving astern. Pulsating life no longer concerns itself with them. I am thinking of the few, the scattered few amongst us who have absorbed new and vigorous truths. Such men stand, as it were, at the outposts, so far ahead that the compact majority has not yet been able to come up with them. And there they are fighting for truths that are too newly born into the world of consciousness to have any considerable number of people on their side as yet.
So the doctor is a revolutionary now.
Good heavens, of course I am, Mr. Hofstadt. I propose to raise a revolution against the lie that the majority has the monopoly of the truth. What sort of truths are they that the majority usually supports? They are truths that are of such advanced age that they are beginning to break up. And if a truth is as old as that, it is also in a fair way to become a lie, gentlemen.
Laughter and mocking cries.
Yes, believe me or not, as you like. But the truths are by no means as long-lived as Methuselah, as some folk imagine. A normally constituted truth lives, let us say, as a rule 17 or 18 or at most 20 years, seldom longer. But truths as aged as that are always worn frightfully thin. And nevertheless, it is only then that the majority recognizes them and recommends them to the community as a wholesome moral nourishment. There is no great nutritive value in that sort of fare, I can assure you, and as a doctor, I ought to know. These majority truths are like last year's cured meat, like rancid, tainted ham. And they are the origin of the moral scurvy that is rampant in our communities.
And he goes on, and you can see that not only in the style of presenting long speeches, but even in the content, until it gets a little relativist toward the end there, you can see the influence on Rand. It gets less Randian later on when he starts going off into eugenic fantasies, which many modern adaptations of the play cut out. His eugenic fantasies is actually sort of inadvertently humorous, because his example of the prime purebred specimen of something is the poodle. And of course, poodles tend to be regarded as humorous in our society through no fault of their own, and largely because of the way they've been groomed in ways that they didn't ask for. In fact, there's someone there's some famous quote to the effect that poodles are not to blame for their hairdos. But anyway, I saw a production of Enemy of the People one time where they changed poodles to greyhounds or something. But anyway, nevertheless, you can certainly see how that speech is kind of a forerunner of Rourke's Cortland trial speech, and I'm going to share a bit of. I'm going to share my screen for a bit of the movie version of that. Even though I don't actually think that Gary Cooper's version is the best possible version of Rourke, but.
Thousands of years ago, the first man discovered how to make fire. He was probably burned at the stake he had taught his brothers to light, but he left them a gift they had not conceived, and he lifted darkness off the earth. Throughout the centuries, there were men who took first steps down new roads, armed with nothing but their own vision. The great creators, The thinkers, the artists, the scientists, the inventors stood alone against the men of their time. Every new thought was opposed. Every new invention was denounced. But the men of unborrowed vision went ahead. They fought, they suffered, and they paid, but they won. No creator was prompted by a desire to please his brothers. His brothers hated the gift he offered. His truth was his only motive.
Und so weiter. Okay, the other play I want to give you a couple of clips from is what Rand said was her favorite play, CYRANO de Bergerac by Edmond Rostand. It's not the play she considered the greatest play. She said that Mona Vanna by Maurice Maeterlinck was the greatest play in world literature. But CYRANO de Bergerac, she said, was her favorite play. So that's a distinction she would sometimes draw between what was greatest and what was her favorite, which is sometimes surprising to people. But I think it has to do with various things concerned with her sense of life theory. Anyway, so in the play CYRANO de Bergerac, the character gives lots and lots of speeches, and here's one of them. I'll share my screen again.
You've done it now. You've made your fortune. He was willing to forget. There you go again, growling. Yes, this latest pose of yours, ruining every opportunity that comes your way, becomes exaggerated. Very well, then I exaggerate. There are certain things in this world a man does well to carry to extreme. Your precious independence, your white plume. What? How do you expect to succeed in life? What would you have me do? Seek for the patronage of some great man, and like a creeping vine on a tall tree, crawl upward where I cannot stand alone? No, thank you. Be a buffoon in the vile hope of teasing out a smile on some cold face? No, thank you. Eat a toad for breakfast every morning, make my knees callous, cultivate a supple spine, wear out my belly groveling in the dust? No, thank you. With my left hand, scratch the back of any swine that roots up gold for me, while my right, too proud to know his partner's business, takes in the fee? No, thank you. Shall I use the fire God gave me to burn incense all day long? No, thank you. Struggle to insinuate my name into the columns of the Gazette? Calculate, scheme, be afraid, love more to make a visit than a poem, seek introductions, favors, influences? No, thank you. No, I thank you, and again, I thank you. But to sing, to laugh, to dream, to walk in my own way, free, with an eye to see things as they are. A voice that means manhood. To cock my hat where I choose. Add a word, a yes, a no, to fight or write, but never to make a line I have not heard in my own heart. To travel any road under the sun, under the stars, nor care if fame or fortune lie beyond the bourne. Yet with all modesty to say, my soul be satisfied with flowers, with weeds, with thorns even, but gather them in the one garden you may call your own. In a word, I am too proud to be a parasite, and if my nature lacks the germ that grows towering to heaven like the mountain pine, I stand not high, it may be, but alone. Alone, yes, but why go about making enemies? Watching other people making friends everywhere, as a dog makes friends. I mark the manner of these canine courtesies and think, here comes, thank heaven, another enemy.
Yeah, it's almost like Jose Ferrer is a better actor than I am. So you can see that, not only in style but in content, that's a very proto-Randian speech. So again, there's another case of a literary precedent for what Rand is doing. There are lots of parallels, in particular, between The Fountainhead and Cyrano de Bergerac. There's one point where Cyrano's offered a healthy commission in exchange for his allowing his patron to rewrite some parts of his plays, and he turns it down in very much the same way that Rourke turns down an architectural contract that was on the same conditions. There's also, this is sort of a digression now, I'm not really talking about speeches at the moment, but there's another of Rand's favorite playwrights was Friedrich Schiller, and in Maria Stuart, the section of the play where everyone is trying to avoid committing themselves to responsibility for, well, I don't want to get to spoilers of what's happening, but there's everyone's sort of trying to avoid, everyone's passing the buck, trying to avoid responsibility for something. It's very much like a scene in Atlas Shrugged involving a little problem that a train encounters in a tunnel that I'm pretty sure that Rand had in mind. Rand at one point wrote a theatrical adaptation of We the Living. In fact, she wrote multiple versions of it. She wasn't really happy with any of them. And rightly so. I mean, they're not in the same league as the novel, and they're not in the same league as Some of Her Better Plays either, but of course they're interesting. One of them is in the novel, Kira is just trying to cross the border and she just gets shot. And we get a narration of her thoughts, but no dialogue. But obviously that's not going to work as well on stage. And so in the stage version, Kira is wounded but captured, and she gives a delirious speech before she succumbs to her gunshot wound and falls lifeless to the floor. So here's her speech. "Let me go. I'm still alive. You've taken most of it already. Once, when I was very young, I wanted to be an engineer, to work and to build. You've taken that. I had a friend, and you made me betray him. You've taken that. I've loved someone who could have lived if he'd been born there, across the border. You've taken that. I have nothing left, nothing but that I know I'm still alive and I can't give up. Do you see what's around us? Do you see them closing in on us? Do you see them staring, pointing, laughing at me? All the weak, the hopeless, the useless ones of the world, all the blind eyes, the shaking hands, the stillborn souls, all the botched, icy-blooded ones who huddle their skins and their sweat together to keep warm enough to stay alive. You think you've won? You think you've broken me? But I'm laughing at you. I'm alive. Come on, who'll fight me first? Why do you shrink? There are so many of you and I'm alone. Or is that what's frightening you? Alone. The only title, the only crown of glory one can wear today. Stand back, you poor unborn ghosts. You can't stop me. I can walk. I'll walk as long as I'm alive. I'll fight you all as long as I'm alive, in the name of every living thing of every living world." Now, as I said in a blog post a while back, that I'll link to in the description, the speech doesn't quite work, and Rand was wise to excise it, but it's interesting for a couple of reasons. First, the reference to the botched and useless shows how strong the influence of Nietzsche still was at this point in Rand's life, before she'd freed herself from Nietzsche's psychological determinism and his medical model of virtue and vice, and moved fully to the view that virtue and vice are chosen rather than innate. Secondly, the speech is clearly modeled rather directly on Cyrano de Bergerac's death scene in Rostand's play, not coincidentally Rand's favorite play. And the similarity of the names Cyrano and Kira is probably not a coincidence either. The fact that Kira's speech was so closely imitative of Cyrano's was probably part of the reason Rand dropped it. Kira's line, "Do you see them staring, pointing, laughing at me?" also fits Cyrano far better than it fits Kira. Kira's enemies don't laugh at her especially, and if they did, she would mind it less than Cyrano does. So I'm going to close up with, share my screen one last time and close up with a clip from the end of the death scene of Cyrano de Bergerac. So, spoiler alert, he dies. This is, this movie is also joyously in the public domain, and I will link to it in the description as well. I don't know whether Rand ever commented in particular on this movie version, but it is it's a great version mainly because of Jose Ferrer's performance. Some of the other performances are a little dodgy, but Jose Ferrer is just so great in this role. It's a somewhat abridged version of the play, but it is. But Ferrer's performance is just iconic. I actually first saw this movie at a meeting in the offices of Ergo, which was an objectivist periodical at MIT that I used to write for when I was in college. I would either walk or take the bus down Mass Ave to MIT, and they would show various films. I think that's also where I first saw Love Letters, another one of Rand's films. It was a pleasant memory. In the MIT Student Center, which I think was built by IMP, although I probably shouldn't cut myself to saying that on the video unless I look it up first. But hey, life is risky. Build your cities on the slopes of Vesuvius, Nietzsche says. I'll just make, I'll just indulge in hypotheses about which architects built which buildings. It's slightly less risky. Okay, I just looked it up. I was wrong. Again, it was Eduardo Catalano, not IMP. IMP designed a bunch of buildings in MIT and in Boston more broadly, but not that one. It's a brutalist building, but I actually have more of a fondness for brutalist architecture than some do, although I also have a fondness for a fairly wide range of architectural styles, though not the styles that predominate at the university where I'm currently located, which are an endless succession of interchangeable red brick monotony. But okay, back to the topic. Okay, so sharing screen now.
No, not here, not lying down. Let no one help me. No one, only let me. It is coming. I feel already shod with marble, gloved with lead. Very well, let the old fellow come now. He shall find me on my feet. Sword in hand. Tear it out! He's delirious. I see him now. He grins. He is looking at my nose, that skeleton. You there. Who are you? 100 against 1, eh? I know them now, my ancient enemies. Falsehood, there! There, fightless! Compromise, cowardice! Stand! Surrender? No, never, never! Ah, you true vanity. I knew you would overthrow me in the end. No, I fight on, I fight on, I fight on! laurels you have riven away, and my roses. Yet, in spite of you, there is one crown I bear away with me. And tonight, when I enter before God, my salute shall sweep away the stars from the blue threshold. One thing without stain, unspotted from the world, in spite of doom, mine own. And that is my white plume.
The speech is even longer in the original text than it is in the movie. So anyway, my my point was just that Ibsen and Rostand both have characters giving long philosophical speeches of a sort of heroic individualist sort. This was an influence on Rand, and nevertheless, Rand gets flack for it of a kind that Ibsen and Rostand don't. So that's all I've got. I wish I really were in Athens having Athenian coffee, or at least a new brew, not last night's warmed up coffee. But I've got no one to blame but myself for the last bit. But this coffee isn't all that much better, brand new out of the box. Anyway, so I'll see you next time. Actually, I don't actually see you. You see me, but I don't, or do I? Do I see you? Maybe I'm really watching all of you, and I'm very disappointed with some of you. All right, so until next time, like, share, subscribe. If you feel so inspired, support me on Patreon or PayPal, and you will see me next time.